סיימתם? גמר חתימה טובה. Or גמר טוב is the Shema. גמר טוב. Boker tov. Thank you for joining us for this most solemn, most holy of days, the one we call Shabbat Shabbaton, the Shabbat of Shabbats. We will be praying together throughout most of our day today. And a brief reminder that following our morning service, we have a children's service at 2 o'clock p.m., and then our afternoon service begins at 3:30 p.m., and that will include the afternoon service, our Yizkor Memorial service, and then Ni'ilah, the concluding service before our congregational potluck break the fast. I'll remind you also that if you have a shofar, even if it's one of those little plastic ones, please bring it back for the end of Ni'ilah and take part in that enormous Tekiyah Gedolah that we shared together at the end, which truly signals the start of our new year. And we invite everybody to participate in that incredible blast. Finally, please watch yourself if you're fasting today. If at any point you feel like it's not going to be the healthiest of choices for you, make sure to hydrate if you need to. If you need to eat for medication, please do. Fasting is meant to help increase your sense of contemplation and your empathy for those who have no choice but to limit what they eat, but it's not meant to be a dangerous choice for your health. We're going to turn now to page 135. We thank you, living and eternal one, for morning light, for the breath within us, for strength and life renewed. Now it opens before us this Sabbath of Sabbaths, gift of spacious contemplation, mirror for the soul. May we see our lives reflected in this still, clear pool, a day apart, unhurried time, and undivided mind. Give us joy in this day that Israel shares. Give us presence and attention, clear vision, a listening heart. We wake to the morning, we open our eyes, we breathe your name. Page 138.
Israel.
composer of that particular version of Montagu is a man named Donnie Massang, who's an incredible songwriter. And I've had the privilege of studying with him a number of times throughout my life. And one of the things he always encourages us to do, and this prepares us for the next group of prayers, is to feel truly centered in our bodies, in our breaths, in order to then have a proper kavanah, to thank God for our bodies in the prayer of Sher Yetzar, and to thank God for our breath and our soul in the prayer of Elohim Neshama. So as we turn to page 156, I hope you will also take a nice deep breath. Feel even more present. Allow your body to wake up, even just a little more, and be present just a little more. Blessed are you, Holy One, who has formed the human body with wisdom, an intricate network of channels, vessels, and openings. This wondrous structure and the flow of life within us allows us to stand before you and give thanks. Let us cherish this gift of flesh and blood, honor it as God's creation. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei kol basar u'mafli la'asot. We praise you, Holy One, for wondrous acts of creation and healing. power gives firmness to our steps. You are the source of blessings, Adonai. Your great power clothes the naked. You are the source of blessings, Adonai. Your great power gives strength to the weary. You are the source of blessings, Adonai. Your great power removes sleep from my eyes, slumber from my eyelids. You are the source of blessings, Adonai. Your great power made me in the image of God. You are the source of blessings, Adonai. Your great power endowed me with human freedom. You are the source of blessings, Adonai. Your great power has made me Israel. You are the source of blessings, Adonai. Your great power gives strength to Israel. You are the source of blessings, Adonai. Your great power crowns Israel with glory. Page 168.
Hallelujah,
Now we're going to turn to the Chatzi Kaddish on page 176, and we rise either physically or spiritually. Page 181. Those who dwell as scientists or laymen among the beauties and mysteries of the earth are never alone or weary of life. Whatever the vexations or concerns of their personal lives, their thoughts can find paths that lead to inner contentment and to renewed excitement in living. Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts. There is symbolic as well as actual beauty in the migration of the birds, the ebb and flow of the tides, the folded bud ready for the spring. There is something infinitely healing in the repeated refrains of nature, the assurance that dawn comes after night and spring after the winter. Page 183. We read together at the top of the page. You love us by helping us grow. You give us Torah, a ladder for the soul, words that draw us upward, every mitzvah an invitation to climb, forge and kiln and crucible to purify our hearts. You give us Torah. You love us by helping us grow.
Rabba,
Today, we call it by its rightful name, a day of dread, Norah ve'ayom. Unwelcome visitor, for we want to live in a sunny world where God is love and all endings are happy. But the drumbeat sounds and the words tumble down and even the angels tremble with fear. For all things are judged and all things will pass, and life ends in a heartbeat and death knows our name. At the start of the year, the season of truth, comes the day of remembrance. For all we forget, for all we deny. And we fall on our knees in the depths of our hearts, for we know that the bell tolls for us. The words are old, and the language was theirs, but the call is real, and the message is ours. Take hold of your life while you still have the chance, for your story will end, and it might be this year in a way you don't know. Take hold of your life, make things right while you can, and don't miss the call of the day of dread. your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign is a reign of truth. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal, you record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten. And when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself. For every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other. And so a great shofar will cry, Tekiah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, behold the day of judgment. For they too are judged. In your eyes even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath a staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds. You decide destiny. You inscribe judgments.
Amen.
On Rosh Hashanah, this is written. On the fast of Yom Kippur, this is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age? Who will be taken before their time? Who by fire, and who by water? Who by war, and who by beast? Who by famine, and who by drought? Who by earthquake, and who by plague? Who by strangling, and who by stoning? Who will rest, and who will wander? Who will be tranquil, and who will be troubled? Who will be calm, and who tormented? Who will live in poverty, and who in prosperity? Who will be humbled, and who exalted? You are everything that we praise you for, slow to anger, quick to forgive. You do not wish the death of sinners, but urge them to return from their ways and live. Until the day of death, you wait for them. You accept them at once if they return. Since you created us, you know our impulses. We are but flesh and blood. Return to page 218 for the Kiddusha. All who are able, please rise. this holiest of days, we now are going to take time for silent, personal prayer. Please continue on your own through page 250. Choose whichever prayers speak directly to your own heart, and then be seated when you are finished. We now turn to page 252 for Avinu Malkeinu. It's a pleasure to invite up Jeff and Beth Brewer to open the ark for us, and everyone who is able, please rise. We'll be reading together in the Hebrew and the English back and forth. You may join me in either or both. Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice. Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu, Ve'al Olaleinu V'Tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, Hale Dever V'Chered V'Ra'a Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger. Avinu Malkeinu, Hale Kol Tsar U'Mastin Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror. Avinu Malkeinu, Kotvenu B'Sefer Chaim Tovim. Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, Malei Yadeinu Mibirchotecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avinu Malkeinu, Harein Keren Mishechecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption. Avinu Malkeinu, Na'al Teshivenu Rekam Milfanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing. Avinu Malkeinu, Kabel Berachamim Uberatzon et Tefilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it. Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Imanu Lema'an Shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Lema'ancha Imlo Lema'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours. Avinu Malkeinu, Ein Lanu Melech Ela Ata. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, P'tach Sha'arei Shamayim L'Tefilatenu. Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Chus v'rachem aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice. Treat us with tender compassion.
Amen.
a pleasure to invite up our gabbis, Laura Roman and Kevin Fox. And Reznikoff will be our Torah portion gabbai, helping us out during this part of the service. And Paula Feder will be coming up to help us undress the Torah. Again, page 255.
No
for all of us. And it specifically says, as you'll see, men and women and children. Everyone, no matter your occupation, no matter your socioeconomic status, this covenant is given to everyone. And it's incredible. I mean, what a message. And it's also going to remind us that this covenant is not waiting for you and you need a teacher to go get it for you, but it's in you. It's in your mouth. It's in your heart. Not that, we don't need rabbis, because it's nice to be your rabbi, but you've got it. The text is in you. You can find your own meaning, your own interpretation in it. So the text is going to be on pages 266 through 268. And for our first Aliyah this morning, it is such an honor to have Maxine Klein and David Zelesnik blessing our reading and Evelyn Foster reading from the text.
Adonai
And now for our third aliyah, it is a pleasure to invite to bless the Torah, Alan and Beth, ladies. And now for our fourth aliyah, it is a pleasure to invite Ellen Nodelman to bless the reading, and Robin Freeman will be reading the next two aliyahs. fifth and final Aliyah this Yom Kippur morning, we have a nice big group coming up, and it is a group comprised of many of our newest members of our congregation. And so it is a pleasure to invite up, and hopefully I caught everybody, Phil and Cindy Rashal, Layla Phillips, Fran Friedman, Jonathan Wilder, Elisa Leibovitz, the Sobels. I know, did I see Evan Cooper back there somewhere? Come on up, who else? Just join us. Look at this amazing group of our newest family members. It's so exciting. I did see him back there. Thought you could see him. While the Torah is still out in our midst and we feel that extra connection to God, to the divine, to the universe, we take a moment to offer prayers of healing to those in our families, those in our community, who are ill, who are in pain, who who are suffering today. We direct our hearts toward them and our prayers. And we pray that they will indeed have a return to shalom and shleimut, to peacefulness and to wholeness. If you have somebody for whom you're praying for a refuah shlema, a complete and speedy recovery, I invite you to share their names aloud now.
Lee Gallagher.
Father Brett, Dr. Michael Lippman.
And Justin.
Alice Shaver.
Rural Gallows. We now turn together to page 272.
Thank you.
of the Torah called Hadba and Galila. And it is a privilege to invite up our Matbia to lift up the Torah, Jack Connolly, and our Bolelet, Rochelle Diamenheimer, to help us dress the Torah. All who are able, please rise.
אין לריב ומצה תצומו, ולפחות באגרוף רשע, לא תצומו כיום, להשמיע במרום חוכם. הכזה יהיה צום אפתרהו, יום ענות אדם נפשו, על הקוף כגון ראשו, ושק באפר יציע, על הזה תקרא צום, ויום רצון אדוני. הלא זה צום אפתרהו, פתח פרצופות רשע, עטר אגודות מותה, ושלח פצוצים חפשים, וקומותה תנתקו. הלא פרס מראה בניך, ועננים מרודים כבקעי, כי תראה ארוס בכיסאתו, ומקשרך לא תתאבם. אז תבקח כשחר אורך, ורוחך מהירה תצמח, והלך לפניך צדקך, כבוד אדוני לכספך. אז תקרא באדוני יענה, תשבעה ויאמר הנני, אם תשיר מחוקותיו, שלח אצבעה ותעבר אבן. ותחק לרעב נפשך, ונפש נענה תשביע, וזרח בחושך אורך, ולבטך כצהריים. ונוכח אדוני תמיד, והשביע בצחצחות נפשך, ועצמותיך יחליץ, בהתקדן רבה, וכמוצא מים, אשר לא יחדו מימיו. ובנו ממך רבות עולם, ושדה דור ודור תקומם, וקרא לך כותב ארץ, מסובב נתיבות ואשבת. אם תשיב משבת דרכך, עשור חפצך ביום חדשי, וקראת בשבת עונג, וקדוש אדוני מכובד, וקיבלתו לעשות דרכך, למצוא קצך ודבר דבר. אז תתענג על אדוני, הרכבתיך במותי, הארץ בחפתיך, נחלת יעקב אביך, כי אדוני דיבר. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל עמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, הנאמן האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת הצדק, על התורה והעבודה והמילים, יום הכיפורים הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, נחילה וסליחה וכפרה, לכבוד וכפרת, על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך, ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך ותיקו חי תמיד לעולם ועד, וברכה אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מוחל סולח לעוונותינו לעוונות עמו בית ישראל, ומעביר עצמותינו בכל שנה ושנה. מלך אבו הארץ מקדש ישראל ביום הכיפורים.
We will now be returning the Torah to the Ark. We're going to be on page 290 in your mock Celine. And it is a privilege to invite up to the Torah, to the Ark, to open it for us, Nancy and Elliot Schwab. Please rise. be seated. For a year, a good year in which you are written and then sealed in the book of life. Now, as many of you know, Sept and I are, okay, I'll just say it, we're Trekkies. Do I have any fellow Trekkies here? Excellent. Maybe you even noticed the stickers on our car. We've attended 4 Star Trek conventions, 3 in Vegas, 1 in New Jersey, over the past few years. Spencer won the cutest Captain Picard in a costume contest. You know, he was bald at the time. And they are such fun and fascinating events. For those of you who haven't experienced the joy of a Star Trek convention, maybe you've seen clips of the convention on TV or in the documentary, or even as it was parodied in the movie Galaxy Quest. These conventions can get pretty intense. Trekkies, or Trekkers, as some prefer to be called, take all the Star Trek stuff pretty seriously. They debate which series was the best, which captain was most capable, which villain group. Picard, okay, so we're already, I do like Janeway. Which villain was most fierce, and on. They dress up as their favorite characters, also known as cosplay. They buy myriad pieces of memorabilia, and they write fan fiction. Many attend the convention every single year. Personally, I grew up watching the original Star Trek series, you know, the one with William Shatner, the next Jewish boy, as Captain Kirk, because my mom was a fan. Then as I entered middle school, I grew to love Next Generation. My Star Trek appreciation ended there, but Seth happens to be a big fan of Voyager and Deep Space Nine. So between the two of us, we've got most of the Star Trek world covered, other than the newest series and movies. But we look forward each time to spending time with fellow fans, to meeting so many of the actors and actresses. We take pictures with them, we get autographs. I might have even purchased a Star Trek uniform. Maybe I didn't. While at the convention, part of me couldn't help but observe what was going on with kind of more of a sociological point of view. There are people in full Klingon regalia, people painted green, people dressed as the Borg. Why do the fans do this? I had to wonder why. Why go through all that effort? And the answer that ultimately was most obvious to me, because we all need a place to belong. We want to spend time with like-minded people, people who get us, people who care about what we care about, who value what we value. Simon Sinek, who's an author and an organizational consultant, states, "Our need to belong is not rational, but it is a constant that exists across all people in all cultures. It's a feeling we get when those around us share our values and beliefs. When we feel like we belong, we feel connected and we feel safe. As humans, we crave the feeling and we seek it out." Now, there are many truths that link us as human beings, qualities that we share no matter who or where we are. We all need to eat and sleep. We need to learn and grow. And we all need to feel that we belong somewhere. To belong is to feel at home, to feel comfortable, to feel like you're part of something. You're surrounded by similar people, and perhaps you're connected by belief, by interest, by history, by hobby, by favorite TV show, or even by blood. This shared connection is powerful, it's meaningful, and it's enriching in so many ways. Now, what you may not realize is that by virtue of being here, right now, you belong. Now, first of all, we all belong, of course, either by being born, or by choice, or by marriage, to the Jewish community. We share a common history. We share many common beliefs, many of the same foods, many of the same myths and legends and stories. And you belong to Beth Shalom Orthodox Tzedek, this particular grouping of individuals and families which make up our Kehillah Kedosha, our sacred community. Now that being said, some of you may not always be so sure what you're doing here. As a Kippur parent who shall remain nameless said just a few days ago, I'm a member of the Never Thought I'd Ever Belong to a Temple club. And I get it. There may be this nagging sense of obligation, especially to the next generation. And for others, there's this feeling that this is just what Jews do. So I wonder, as your rabbi, should it mean more than that? Can it mean more than that? So to me, that led me to the big question. Why are we here? Now, I suppose it's only fair for me to tell you a little bit from my heart about why I'm here. So why am I here? I'm here, right now, to share my love and enjoyment of Judaism with others, so that we can all take part in our own ways in this truly sacred tradition together. And I do love being Jewish. Is it a little weird to hear someone say that? We aren't often encouraged to feel a sense of pride or affection for being Jewish. But my joy at being Jewish doesn't, of course, diminish anyone else's faith traditions or anyone else's choices. It's simply my own experience. It's the feeling I get when I sing the first few notes of Oseh Shalom, and soon the whole room joins in with me. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Yisrael, that feeling. It's a feeling that I got in Israel on Friday afternoons when everyone around me wished me a Shabbat Shalom. It's the feeling I get when I experience hints of God's presence in my life. I love being part of this worldwide, timeless tradition that teaches us to make the world a better place, to care for ourselves and others, and to enjoy life while we're here. In my cells, I feel my Judaism, and that I belong to this special community, and that I'm connected across time, both to my ancestors and to my descendants. I treasure the stories, the folk legends, the way Jewish time works, the music, the lifelong learning. And I'm really proud to be a Reform Jew as well. Now, being part of CBSRZ, by the way, means that you are also considered a part of the Reform Jewish movement, under the umbrella organization known as the Union for Reform Judaism, or URJ. Now, many of us might might be able to articulate why someone might want to be a part of the general Jewish community, but we may not always feel as confident if someone asks us, what exactly is a Reform Jew? So to start, let's remind ourselves about the terminology. It is reform, not reformed. There is no ed at the end, reform. It's not past tense. And this is an important point. Some have even suggested that the most appropriate name would be reforming, since it's a continuous process. It's always going on. And yet, for nearly 200 years, we've called it reform, so that's what we've got. We're going to just go with that. Of the major movements in America, Reform, Reconstructionist, Conservative, and Orthodox, Reform was the first. Up until its creation, everyone was just Jewish. You might make your own choices, or your family might make your own choices in terms of observance or belief, and you might follow the teachings of this rabbi or that rabbi. But other than the distinction between Ashkenazic and Sephardic Jews, based on where your family was from, there's really no other formal distinction between groups of Jews. But in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, as the Enlightenment spread across Europe, a radical idea began to grow. That people could be Jewish without adhering to the very strict moral and legal code of their ancestors. A number of Jews wanted to update Judaism to meet their new needs and to express different spiritual yearnings. They believed that the faith had grown stagnant for so many and had lost its appeal. And this group felt that religious change and growth was legitimate and that it was all right to allow Judaism to evolve as society evolved. In short, they believed that they could continue to belong to the Jewish community while still belonging to the larger society. So these reformers began a tradition of studying the various laws and the rituals of Judaism and of encouraging people to make choices about what was meaningful to them in their own modern lives. Reformed Jews were able to express their Jewish identities on their own terms and to connect with growing numbers of like-minded friends. So over time, what is considered meaningful does evolve and change, whether it involved ritual garb like talitot or kippot, which so many of us in this room demonstrate the variety of ways that we choose to physically express our Judaism, whether it meant keeping kosher or keeping Shabbat to all kinds of various degrees, attending services regularly or not so regularly, and on. And congregations, even in the Reform movement, might differ in terms of how much Hebrew a Shabbat service might contain or what type of liturgical music is included. And we are nevertheless encouraged to continue asking ourselves, what is meaningful to us? As 21st century Jews, we do sometimes find ourselves in a paradoxical place. On one hand, most of the barriers which historically kept us from fitting in and kept us from feeling like everybody else have come down. And on the other, we're ever more aware of how our ancestral roots nourish us, and we want to celebrate our differences. Our sense of belonging is both simultaneously wider and narrower. Wider and narrower. And in this way, Reformed Jews vacillate between particularism and universalism. We're members of a particular religious and cultural background, the Jewish people, and more than ever, we're keenly aware of our larger responsibility for our communities, our countries, and really the entire world. When we ponder, to whom do I belong? There are so many different answers. And identity is more fractionalized and complex, determined by such factors as country, language, gender expression, profession, political party, socioeconomic status, and religion. And each of these components make up our identity like pieces of a pie. For so many of us, identifying the Jewish slice of that pie or its importance among the other pieces gets more and more difficult. What's the binding agent that connects us to the Jewish people? What helps us feel like we belong and helps us determine how big that slice of pie should be? There is fear that loyalty to Judaism may be waning among younger generations of Jews who tend to dislike labels and prefer more fluid lifestyles. They may seek out the Jewish community to fulfill immediate needs like a life cycle ceremony or the education of their children, but they're not always so sure regarding synagogue membership or involvement as a lifetime commitment. So, if I may share with you why I think we should make that Jewish piece of a pie, and I will stop talking about pie in just a second. I'm so sorry. And the CBSRZ piece of the why I think those slices should be a little more present in this coming year. Now first, I'll remind you of the delightful book which we as a congregation were encouraged to read this past spring. Hopefully you had a chance to pick up a copy. It was called Judaism's 10 Best Ideas, a brief guide for seekers. And this very small book attempts to answer the question, why be Jewish? With 10 of the most central concepts in Judaism and how they remain integral to modern Jewish life today. Now, if you haven't had a chance to read it yet, and it's okay if you haven't, I still wholeheartedly invite you to read it. It can help you make some choices for yourself about the role of Judaism in your own life. And we, in the spring and early summer, offered some small group discussions so people could come together and talk about some of those thoughts that they had. And what we hope might happen is that some of these ideas that we all have as individuals can help us inform collectively who CBSRZ might be as we move through this second century of our existence. It can help us choose who we are and help us choose what we support as a community, and we do hope to offer a few more sessions if you're available and can make it in the coming months. So now, with regard to Reform Judaism, why we should be proud Reform Jews, Rabbi Eric Yaffe, past president of the URJ, suggests the following few points. Number one, Reform Jews are committed to a Judaism that changes and adapts to the needs of the day. Since its earliest days, Reform Judaism has asserted that a Judaism frozen in time is an heirloom, not a living fountain. We assert Judaism's innovative character, and we assert, too, that a stubborn failure to change will make Judaism irrelevant. This willingness to adapt has brought new vitality and strength to a Jewish community that is fully integrated into North American culture. Number two, Reform Judaism's most enduring mantra, if you will, is one of informed choice. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, informed choice. All too often I hear people say, I'm Reformed, so I don't actually have to do anything. And that's also one of the worst stereotypes about the Reform movement. Or I hear this is a Reformed congregation, so we don't have to observe that ritual or that ritual. And this is one of the greatest falsehoods, and it's important that we all work together to educate each other about this. It can be much more difficult to be a Reformed Jew than one of the other streams. In the strictest forms of Judaism, like Orthodoxy, you learn the rules and you follow them. Reformed Jews are responsible for choosing on their own, and that's tough. That personal responsibility can be challenging for some, but it can be exhilarating for others. Number three, in Reform Judaism, we all have the responsibility to learn the traditions, to study the rituals, and then to make our own decisions about what is meaningful to us. So try out wearing a talit, wearing a kippah if you haven't before. study Torah in a new way, or Talmud, choose to observe Shabbat a little bit each week. We are respectful of each other's choices to do or not do something, but it's not enough to just choose ignorance or to default to the easiest option. Instead, we must learn, study, and educate ourselves, and then make the choice that resonates most for us. Number 4, Reform Jews are committed to the absolute equality of women in all areas of Jewish life, period. We were the first movement to ordain women rabbis, invest women cantors, elect women presidents of our synagogues. And while we've not yet totally fulfilled this commitment, there is no longer any debate that a Judaism that diminishes the equality of women is a Judaism that degrades our dignity and besmirches our soul. Number 5, Reform Jews are committed to social justice. Even as Reform Jews embrace ritual prayer and ceremony more than ever, we continue to see social justice as the jewel in the Reformed Jewish crown. Like the prophets, we never forget that God is concerned about the everyday, and that the blights of society take precedence over the mysteries of heaven. A Reformed synagogue that does not work to alleviate the suffering of those in pain is a contradiction in terms. My friend and colleague, Rabbi Paul Kipnis, elaborates on this. He writes, "We live in a world that speaks of consumer values. What do I get if I pay for this or that? Judaism is a people/religion/nation/culture/ethnicity/more that transcends that question, asking instead, what will being part of a community do for our world, for all people, for our people, and for our community?" That's how I think, and that's how I want my children to think. So if I may, I'm going to throw in one more classic Jewish joke for you all this high holiday season. You probably know this one. A Jewish man is stranded on a desert island for decades. You all know where I'm going. I see a lot of you nodding. Over time, he builds 2 ornate synagogues. When he is finally rescued, he is asked why he went through the trouble of building 2 synagogues. "Oh, I belong to that one," he says, pointing to the one on the right. "But that one," he says, pointing to the one on the left, "I would never set foot in that one." Favor. Now, I can speak for Cantor Belinda, our staff, our leadership, when I tell you that we really feel fortunate that you've chosen to belong here to CBSRZ. You're part of our family, and I don't use the word family lightly. We really do hope to be that synagogue on the right, rather than the one with the guy on the left said he never set foot in it. But why belong to CBSRZ? In order to come together as a Jewish community so that we can care for each other and for the world. Let me say that again. In order to come together as a Jewish community so that we can care for each other and for the world. We really do care about each other here. It's so heartwarming and inspiring every day that I have the chance to witness it and be a part of it. We learn each other's names. We hope you find your own unique place here on your own terms within our larger structure. We care when you're not around. You may recall receiving a phone call from a member of our board of directors over the past few weeks. Our lay leadership wanted to just, wish you a good new year and talk to you a little bit about why CBSRZ is special to you and what you'd like to see more of here. Interestingly, fascinating, more than 2/3 of the people who answered shared that it is our community which which is most precious to them. And that is remarkable. Now, additionally, so many of us express a deep desire for spirituality and connection with something greater than ourselves. And numerous paths are open to you here. Some connect with the divine through prayer or music. Thank you to all of our musicians. Some connect through learning our sacred texts or languages. Some through guided meditation. Some through walking through our meditation garden, which is being rededicated on September 30th in the morning. We hope you'll join us. Some through performing acts of tikkun olam and good deeds which change the world. And all of these actions, whether we think consciously or not about them, allow us to experience the capital O oneness, which unites us all. We strive here at CBSRZ to be inclusive and welcoming to folks with all different kinds of stories and all different kinds of journeys that led you here at CBSRZ. No matter what brought you here, welcome home. We're also proud to have active members of all ages here. All ages are invited to learn with us, to participate and interact with us, and help shape CBSRZ into what you envision it can be. We have babies, so many wonderful babies. We have nonagenarians, kind of horrible. That's people over 90. And every age in between. And you know what? We really just also hope you enjoy being here. Just, come and have a great time while you're here. Enjoy the art, enjoy the concerts, enjoy the talks, enjoy the comfy couches that are right out here outside the sanctuary. Go sit and relax and talk to somebody. So, Chaverim, friends, I have a job for you. On this day of not just atonement, but at 1 minute, 57:79, I invite you to do 5.5 things. Number 1, be proud of your involvement in the Jewish community and your involvement here at CBSRZ, whatever it looks like. Continue to think about why this community is so special to you and help us take steps to ensure that it remains special and remains home to so many for generations to come. Number 2, if you're feeling disconnected from CBSRZ in any way, we want to know. Please reach out to any one of us on the staff or the leadership, to Cantor Belinda, to me, anyone with whom you feel comfortable, and talk with us. We'd love to understand more, and we'd be honored to help you find your place here or help make our place more for you. Number 3, if you're feeling disconnected from Judaism, the Jewish community, please let Cantor Belinda or me know. We would love to talk with you, to help you along a path to what we hope would be a new feeling of belonging and being at home in our faith tradition. Number 4, learn something new. Some new piece of Jewish text, some new part of a life cycle event, something new about Jewish ritual. The more you know, the more you'll feel like a comfortable, confident part of our community. I understand what it can be like to come and not know the prayers or not know the melodies and to feel like an outsider. Part of, and this is the tough part of it, part of what helps you feel even more like you belong is pushing through that and coming more. Number 5, make informed choices about your Jewish life. Study more and then choose what is meaningful to you. And then here's the 5.5. Make a new friend. Reach out. If you see somebody by themselves, or even if there's a conversation going on, don't interrupt. Be polite. But try to make a new friend. Reach out. Create community. And as Jews, as the community of CBSRZ, as individuals, may we all have a good and healthy new year. Amen. we turn now together back in our Machzorim to our Vidui Uslichot, Confession and Forgiveness, page 293. Because I was angry, because I didn't think, because I was exhausted and on edge, because I'd been drinking, because I can be mean, because I was reckless and selfish, because I was worried about money, because my marriage was dead, because other people were doing it, because I thought I could get away with it, because I did something wrong, because I'm in pain, because I wish I could undo it, because I've hurt him, because I lost her trust, because I let them down, because I was self-destructive, because I was foolish, because I'm ashamed, because that's not who I am, because that's not who I want to be, because I want to be forgiven. God, bring down my walls of defensiveness and self-righteousness. Help me to stay in humility, please. Give me the strength to do what's right.
Before we move into this next prayer, Shema Kohen, we're asking God, please hear our prayers, listen to us. This prayer in particular always brings me back to a woman who I understand is actually watching us this morning. Her name is Harriet Fellows. Hi, Harriet. I hope you're still tuning in. But I did get word that she was watching. And this is the woman who is my predecessor, on whose shoulders I stand. She taught me all of the, I'll say the traditional chants that we still do today. She taught me as I sat in her kitchen, in her living room, and as she gave me, remember these? Cassette tapes. And I'm very grateful, and I miss her, and we miss her. Henry, this morning, what did you say? What did you miss about Harriet?
She was the greatest punter I've ever met.
Yes. Oh my God, that wit. Unbelievable, sharp, like a knife. She is truly a fabric of this community, whether she is physically here or not. And it is hard not to come to this piece and not mention her name with great awe and respect. And Harriet is a different melody today. I'm sure you can let me know later. I invite you, though, as if some of the phrases become familiar, to please join.
Go.
We turn to page 296. It's a pleasure to invite up Sharon Goldberg and Sandy Herzog to open the art for us. Please rise. Please be seated. We now come to a Shamnu, and this morning I'll point out to you in the Hebrew, though it's not conveyed in the English, you may recall it was in Gates of Repentance, that the translation was also in alphabetical order. The Hebrew here is in alphabetical order. It's an acrostic, where every word begins with the next letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And that's meant to indicate a totality. We're trying so hard to confess to everything we possibly can so that we have the opportunity to truly start anew. We, of course, if we choose, place our fists over our hearts, to knock on them, to say, I did wrong and I really want to try to do better. I want to lead more with my heart this coming year. Ay, 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 ay.
Azal
Page 299. For the sin we committed against you through evading and avoiding because we could not face the truth. For our flight into hypocrisy and deception because we did not dare to speak it. For the facts we dissembled and all we glossed over. For the excuses we made. We'll continue together. For feeding our bodies and starving our souls. For interfering with the souls of others and neglecting their needs. For shifting our responsibilities. For reproaches and recriminations. For our foolishness, our folly, and false standards. For seeing these things only in others, never in ourselves. For our complacency, which blinds us, and our self-righteousness, which lessens us. For calculating kindness and measuring out pity. For charity that is cold and prayers without feeling. For withholding our love. For the appeals that we ignored and the people whom we refused. For the affection which died and our lives that became bitter. For the visions which faded, the ideals we neglected, and the opportunities we lost. For the fear of change and renewal and our unbelief. For saying prayers aloud but refusing to listen. For being our own worst enemy. We continue with the Vidui Rabbah, the long personal confession. Please continue on your own through page 317. It is a joy now to invite up our congregation's president, Brad Jubelier, to share words with you in honor of this Yom Kippur morning.
Dear friends and fellow congregants, I want to begin by wishing each and every one of you good Yontif and hope 5779 brings us closer to our families, our friends, and to our community in peace and good health. As I have the greatest honor to stand on this bema and address you as president of our congregation, I look out upon this grand sanctuary, and I see our Beth Shalom Rosetta family. I see love. I see unity. On this most solemn day, I see and feel forgiveness, inclusion, and acceptance. Therefore, I see and feel peace in this house of peace. I see a holiness and goodness in all of you, and hence, as I look at you all, I see and I feel God's presence. At the beginning of our service, our choir and cantor bring our mindset into worship by singing Matovu. How beautiful are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel. As for me, through your abundant grace, I enter your house to worship with awe in your sacred place. While these words bring us to the Israelite camp of Bedouin tents encircling the tabernacle, extending over the desert plains prior to crossing the Jordan, this verse reminds us of the awe and the beauty of this sacred place as we worship as one. When Solomon designed our sanctuary, I believe he knew that each of the unique features of the design would keep the inattentive congregant in holy thought. So I need to make a confession. I know it may be hard to believe, but there are moments in the service where my attention just wanders off. I gaze upward and stare upon those magnificent beams that create our Mogen David, the Star of David frame that supports our sanctuary from above. My eyes wander to study selected divine phrases from Torah inscribed in gold leaf on the beams of each wall, reminding us of God's holiness and our obligation as the nation of Israel to live as a holy people by pursuing peace, justice, and truth through Torah, worship, and acts of tzedakah, righteous goodness. I look beyond Rabbi and cantor and I become entranced with the art that presented its magnificent design and colors. Certainly I know I'm not alone. How lovely it is to take in the splendid landscape and the exterior structure of this holy building as you approach from East Kings Highway when you came here this morning, or any morning. Our community has a beautiful sacred place here at CBSRZ that we can proudly call our home. This is our home. For the Jewish community of the entire lower Connecticut River Valley and beyond, these are our dwellings. For the past 17 years, we've come together here to weave our Jewish identity and our spirituality. We learn together, celebrate together, and support one another in times of need and loss. This is the center of our Jewish life. We are a Jewish family, and this is our family's home. However, please take the time to look around carefully, and you'll see the exterior of our synagogue, specifically our siding and our roof, needs repair, replacement, and restoration. With the changing needs of our congregation, interior modifications for better functionality and safety are necessary as well. During these days of awe, we focus our inner soul and we work on mending and restoring ourselves so that we can be more effective as God's partners in Tikkun Olam for the remainder of the year. As I hope and pray that we continue to find the mitzvah of world repair outside these walls, it is now that we need to take a good look at our very own home and realize that our own synagogue needs repair. Let me take a moment, as I know I speak for everyone, in thanking our rabbi, our cantor, our choral director and choir, the Religious Affairs Committee and Gabbis for all their hard work and preparation, making our high holiday services wonderfully beautiful, and thus spiritually awakening us for reconciliation and renewal. Our professional staff, and especially Wendy Bayer, do so much behind the scenes to ensure that our services in Holy Space are ready for the holidays. I want to thank you all. Thank all of the many volunteers, from those who manage parking, to preparing the break fast, to assisting in Tashlich and children's service. It is our volunteers and our lay leadership that make us a participating community in our CBSRZ life. My fellow congregants, it is now imperative that we as a united congregational family take the necessary action to preserve and to protect our Jewish home. In these past few weeks leading up to the high holidays, as the Rabbi mentioned, all the directors on our CBSRZ board have made every attempt to reach out to each of you to wish you Shana Tova. We also wanted, as she mentioned, we also wanted to get your feedback on what this congregation means to you. Why it is important that you belong here. What is it that draws you to CBSRZ? And what direction should our congregation take going forward to best satisfy your needs as a valued congregant? We answer these questions for ourselves and share them with our congregation leadership. As we do this, we begin the process of articulating our mission and our purpose going forward as a whole congregation. I think our rabbi gave us something today earlier to think about in her sermon, and we could start really putting this mission together. We thus answer the question, why does this place mean so much to me and my family? And why should I contribute to preserve it? 20 years have passed since we last launched the capital campaign that was so successful. We were able to build our holy space on this large parcel of land and pay off the mortgage within months. We were fortunate in that we had many very generous benefactors. All of us benefited and continue to benefit from their generosity, many of whom are no longer with us. Their legacy lives on as we're among the many who built this house and made it our congregational home. What made this campaign truly successful was nearly every congregant contributed and thus was able to take joy in the mitzvah of righteous giving, knowing that part of each of them lives in CBSRZ forever. Each of us is continuously rewarded for the gift that was made 20 years ago each time we enter this shul. And yes, our legacy will always be here as long as this building stands. With this in mind, Rabbi Bellows reminded me of a midrash involving Honi, a famous first century Jewish sage. And it goes like this. One day, Honi was journeying on the road, and he saw a man planting a carrot tree. He asked, "How long does it take for this tree to bear fruit?" The man replied, 70 years. Honi then further asked him, "Are you certain that you will live another 70 years?" The man replied, "I found already grown carrot trees in the world. As my forefathers planted those for me, so I too plant these for my children." In order to protect our home now and preserve it for our children and generations that come after us, it is essential we now must launch a capital campaign for a second century. Everyone will have the opportunity to give out of love for the sacred place. We hope that those with means will feel compelled to give generously and feel appreciation from within the goodness of their philanthropy. Equally as important, those of us with financial constraints will have the opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah of tzedakah by giving whatever they can. We are a congregation that recognizes that a small gift from some can be a bigger personal expense than a large gift from others. This always has been the spirit of CBSRZ. Any gift is preciously valued. Thus, every one of us can savor the benefit of knowing that part of us and our legacy lives in CBSRZ forever. In Exodus 25, verse 2, it states, quote, "And God said to Moses, tell the Israelites to bring me an offering for the tabernacle. You are to receive my offering from only those whose hearts are compelled." My fellow congregants, as I believe you've been spiritually uplifted through these high holiday services in our beautiful sacred place we call House of Peace, Pursuers of Justice, it is my prayer that all of our hearts stay compelled throughout this year to do what we can to preserve our home and our legacy through the mitzvah of righteous giving. Like these beams that surround us above, to form the Mogen David above, to frame our sanctuary, our synagogue needs our support. Thank you, and I wish you all an easy and meaningful fast. Gamar Chatima Tova. May we all be inscribed in the book of life for a good year.
Amen. Did you say are we done? We're almost done. Give me a minute. Quickly, just to review the rest of the day, and then we got one more song. So to remind you, the spirit of Yom Kippur Day is that it's one long service. So you'll notice we're not doing really concluding prayers right now, because as the day goes on, it's viewed as one worship experience. We will take breaks, that's just how we choose to do it, but that's if you're wondering where's Elena, etc. To remind you, at 2 o'clock p.m. is our children's service. Bring children of all ages if you'd like. It really is a wonderful experience for the whole family. And then at 3:30, that's when our afternoon service begins, which leads directly into Yisrael, the memorial service, and directly into Nikilah, our concluding service, the closing of the gates, and then to break the fast. And then one more time to remind you, bring your shofarot, bring your shofars for that big Tikiyah Gedolah at the end of Nikilah. All ages are going to come on up. You'll come up to the bima and help us with that final blast. Brad took care of all the thank yous that I was going to make. Let me just see. Thank you to the Gabbis, Laura and Kevin. You guys are incredible. When things work seamlessly up here, you know that even more work went into it, right? So thank you for everybody. To Tracy Kleinberg and the Religious Affairs Committee, Beth Brewer for the Rosh Hashanah Oneg, Wendy and Debbie and Doug and Mark behind the scenes, our shofar blowers, my husband Seth and Maya Chayat and Matt Goller, security Angelo, what a mensch. He really is a blessing to us and our community, and to the Chester Police Department, which has also been keeping a really good eye on us this year. All of our parking lot attendants, I am going through all my thank yous, I know. Meg, Dwyer, Joe Saltzman, Jim Gutman, all who led and helped facilitate incredible musical, spiritual experiences for us. And to my Dina partner, Belinda, you're a gem, you're a joy, and really a privilege to get to work with. There's no one like Belinda. And finally, to Tracy and Liz Jones and break the fast later. Do you guys need help if people can stick around for tables and stuff?
Sure.
I bet, yeah. So if anyone can stick around a little bit after the service this morning, Religious Affairs Committee would love it if we can help just set up some of the tables and chairs for the break the fast a little later. If I left anybody out in my thank yous, I apologize. What? Oh, thank you. Oh, you're welcome. What can I say? One person.